Welcome back. So, do I say welcome once again to Rod Martin, one of our favorite contributors, dear friend, as well as an incredibly interesting and, well, I call it free range mind and resource for this program and much more. Rod is, among other things, the guy that you want to turn to for his analyses and commentaries at rodmartin.org. Subscribe to the Rod Martin Report. There they will find a bit of a running commentary, Rod, on a topic that I know is near and dear to your heart. You're trained as an attorney. You are very much steeped in the Constitution of the United States and revere the freedoms that it enshrines. It has been amended, of course, in the 14th instance to grant citizenship rights to people born in this country. So we're told. The issue was addressed in the Supreme Court earlier this week. Talk a little bit about the lay of the land as you see it, specifically the merits of the case that the president's team has brought, and where we think we go from here.
Well, it is true that for all of my lifetime, we've just defaulted to the assumption that it was a general grant of birthright citizenship. But that's not what the text says. And I have to say, when Trump brought this up, I hadn't given this a lot of thought. I gave it some thought in conjunction with the debate over whether Ted Cruz was a natural-born citizen. And of course, I was born on a U.S. air base in Germany, so I care about that part of birthright citizenship for sure. But that isn't birthright citizenship. That's citizenship by descent from American parents, which is also where Ted Cruz is, even if he was born in Canada. It doesn't matter. But birthright citizenship isn't about that. It's about your ability to become a citizen simply by being born here. And the framers of the 14th Amendment were intentionally trying to give citizenship to slaves. So you have all these people, most of whom were born here, even the older people, because we had abolished the slave trade in 1808. And so you don't have a bunch of imported slaves at that point. Nearly everybody we're talking about had been born in the United States, and they wanted to make sure that they were all citizens. What they didn't want, and they were super clear about, was they didn't want the children of an ambassador from Germany, or it wouldn't have been Germany at the time, would have been Prussia, but they didn't want the children of the ambassador from the court of St. James to be a citizen of the United States. That would be absurd. If you had an invading army, children born on our soil of the invaders, that shouldn't be a citizen. And also, crucially, Indians. You say, well, what do Indians have to do with it? Well, here's what they have to do with it. The Indian tribes were recognized as sovereign nations distinct from the United States of America. And so we actually carved out an exception in the Constitution, and here's how it reads. It says, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now, the left is claiming that means if you come to America and you're subject to getting a speeding ticket here, somehow you're subject to the jurisdiction thereof, thereof being of the United States. That's malarkey. That's just silly. And if that were true, then it would catch all the children of ambassadors, because they are not necessarily subject to diplomatic immunity, and diplomatic immunity for that purpose is something we invented after the 14th Amendment. So this is just wrong. And the Trump administration was right to take this on. It actually really doesn't matter to some degree what the outcome is, because Congress has power over immigration and naturalization. If they wish to extend birthright citizenship to birth tourists, to Chinese people who come over here to get a hook into America by having their child in California and immediately going home, but now they've got a U.S. citizen in the family. If we really want to give citizenship to people who, come across the Rio Grande and immediately give birth, if that's how we want to do things, Congress has that power. But the Constitution does not say it. And John Eastman has done a great job on this. The Solicitor General did a great job on this yesterday. We'll see if the Supreme Court really cares about original intent or not.
And so, Rod, as things stand now, if you were making book on that, where the smart people are telling us that only 2 of the Supreme Court justices evinced much support for this idea. The other 7, not altogether clear where they stand, but the smart money, we're told, is on that they will, oppose the president's interpretation. Does it matter? I mean, going back to what you just said, does it matter how they rule?
In the grand scheme of things, probably not that much, but it would be better if they ruled correctly. And I think that all of the armchair quarterbacking here is misplaced. I've been around courts long enough to know that the way the judge questions somebody doesn't tell you that much about what they're really thinking and how they're going to decide. This is a pretty good Supreme Court. It's certainly the best we've had in our lifetimes. They frequently question harshly the administration's positions on various things and then rule for the administration, because the administration is making good arguments and they want to really, really develop them, because some of this stuff is new ground. If we're going to overturn Humphrey's executor, that's not new ground in the technical sense, but it's changing a 90-year precedent. And if we do this, we're not actually overriding any precedent. I don't think Wong Kim Ark says anything near what the liberals are claiming. It says Wong Kim Ark was the child of 2 legal residents of the United States. That is not an illegal alien, and it just doesn't apply. You could argue that Wong Kim Ark was wrongly decided, but you couldn't argue that it stands in the path of what the administration is trying to do here. So I think that it would be better if they rule correctly with the text of the Constitution and the clear legislative intent. But if they don't, the world won't end.
Well, on that rather upbeat note, we'll be watching it closely, as will you, of course, my friend Rod Martin. We'll be right back with him on the other side of this very short break soon, please.